welcome to Tales at 2, again here at Cedar Run. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time to join in on our feed this afternoon. So I just wanted to say welcome to anybody new who is joining us. Thank you for coming on out this afternoon. Any of our return folks, we appreciate you all visiting with us every afternoon as well. We are still open with our housing area with the animals as well as our hiking trails. Our wildlife hospital is open as well, accepting any patients that might need our assistance. But unfortunately, our nature center is closed. So we're trying to reach out to all of you guys via these videos and some other virtual programming, hopefully to get you all outside. So if you're not watching this live and you're watching later on, feel free to ask any questions as we go. We'll check back on the questions in the Facebook feed. If you are watching this live, of course, ask us questions as we're going, and we'll hopefully be able to answer them as well. So today's topic is going to be seeds on the move. We're going to be talking about different types of seeds. So as you guys know, it's the time of year when a lot of new plants are starting to grow. Some of you guys may be starting gardens and doing vegetables and fruit in your yards. So I want to talk about some different types of seeds, how they get around, how they are protecting themselves, because seeds do have to protect themselves. So we're going to be doing a little bit of that there this afternoon. So welcome everyone again if you're just joining us. We're going to do seeds on the move. So I'm going to start off by talking some of the ways that seeds like to move around. So it's kind of funny to think of a seed as moving, right? They don't have legs and arms to get around like we do or other animals do. But they do have to get to different spots. Like if you're a seed from a tree, you can't always fall directly below your parent because you're not going to be able to grow like you need to. So they have different ways that they can get to new areas and hopefully spread out and colonize the spot. So does anyone know any ways that a seed might get around? There's a lot of different ways. I'll give you all a couple seconds to think about it. So one of the main ways that seeds like to get around is they drop from a tree, right? So sometimes they will fall directly under the tree. Sometimes they'll fall under the tree and they might roll a little ways away. And those seeds aren't going to go too far away. But other ones do like to go a bit further. So some types of seeds may drop and roll, like I said. So in the case of an orange or an apple, a fleshy kind of fruit, these guys are going to hopefully roll off, and once they decay and break down and lose this outside protection, they're going to hopefully plant themselves into the ground if they're a wild tree and they're not on a farm, right? Another one that might roll away a little bit is guys that are like coconuts and things like that. Coconuts also will float away, right? They're close to the water. If they roll and they land in the water, they may float on over and end up at a different island or a different part of an area. So some seeds are good at rolling, some seeds are good at floating, right? So not so much my orange, right? He's gonna probably sink down. Our apple is a little bit more buoyant, but some seeds do like to float on the top of the water, all right? And that's gonna be another way that they can move and get to a different area. So they might fall into a stream, they might fall into a river. Eventually they're gonna hit the bank of that and maybe they'll end up growing there. All right, so some plants or some seeds are gonna roll, some seeds are gonna float. Other seeds have stickers and things on them. So the sticker is gonna protect this seed, right? It doesn't wanna get eaten by something. But what else could the sticker help it do? How could it help it move around? This is a hickory nut, if anyone doesn't know what this one is. It's very, very sharp if you touch it. It's going to protect this seed that's growing inside all of these stickers. And actually the way this one moves around is it's going to stick to the fur of an animal, or maybe stick to your pants or stick to your shoe. And it's going to get brought around like that. So there are lots of seeds that have stickers on them, and they'll kind of cling to an animal's fur and eventually fall off and be in a new spot. All right, so once these guys get old, they do crack open like the one that I have. And then the seed is up for grabs. Maybe an animal is going to eat it then, right? But it does try to protect itself. It doesn't want to get eaten. Same thing with these guys, right? The ones that we were just showing earlier that might float or roll. These guys have a protective coating on the outside too. It's a little softer. It's not going to be as good a protection, but it wants to protect the seed on the inside of the apple or the seed on the inside of the orange. All right, some other seeds are going to have sort of protective coverings too. So this one, as we know with the acorns, or not the acorns, the pine cones, these guys are going to usually fall directly below the tree. They might roll a little bit. For the most part, these seeds are going to move once they start getting eaten by something. So lots of squirrels and chipmunks and things like to eat our pine cones. And they're going to pull these outside pieces off, and And actually underneath these scaly parts of the pine cone, they're a little bit hard to see, but underneath there's a teeny tiny little seed, right? And that seed is protected. And once an animal starts to eat it and pull all the pieces off, you end up with just a core on the middle. So what sometimes happens is they're pulling these pieces off, the seeds are actually floating away in the air because they're so tiny. So I have on this one a little bit left of it. Let's see if I can peel it. No, it's not letting me. If you guys can see, there's that lighter color on the top. That was attached to a seed down here that our little friend the squirrel decided to eat, and he left the rest behind. But if he happened to pull it off and it floated away in the wind, it's going to hopefully land somewhere and grow us a new pine cone or another pine tree. Right? Other seeds that fly, you guys probably know these guys. Right? These come from our maple trees. And these are the ones that look like the helicopters as they fall down. Let's see if we can get it on the film. Might be a little hard. Whoop. They kind of spin as they go. It's too quick. I gotta go higher. So these guys are going to fly. They're going to catch the wind, but they're also going to fly just on their own because of how they're built. So the seed itself is up here. It makes it a little heavier. And then this part is almost like a wing. It's going to catch the wind and make it twirl and swirl and fall down to the ground. All right, another flying seed that I bet you guys have and at home, and I couldn't find one today, of course, is a dandelion, right? You've all seen the dandelion with the fluff and it floats off in the wind. Then it makes that little yellow dandelion. You can go ahead right inside. Someone dropping off an animal. So with our dandelion, those seeds are going to float with the wind, land somewhere else in your yard, and grow a lot more dandelions. So mom and dad have to mow the lawn and pull the weeds, right? So they're another floating seed that we know. One more floating seed that I want to share with you guys is one that maybe some of you guys have seen before, but maybe don't know what it is. This is from the milkweed. So you guys might know the milkweed that grows that the monarch caterpillars like to eat. There's this pod that grows on the milkweed. Usually it's green, and then as it gets older it dries out and turns brown. And it has all these very fluffy seeds. I'm sure you could see them in the wind. All right. The fluffy part is going to catch the wind just sort of like a downy feather from a bird, and the little brown seed is attached. So it's going to float off into a new area and hopefully land and grow us some milkweed. All right. Yeah, put it back in my bag or they're all going to fly away. So can you guys think of any other ways? There's one more way that seeds like to move. So we talked, some are going to roll, some are going to roll and float in the water, right, to go to another spot. Some are going to stick to an animal. Some might float in the wind and move to another spot like that. Some seeds, it's kind of goofy, get moved around by humans, but mostly animals, and they kind of come out of their poo. Is that kind of weird, right? So think about if you guys, or if you were an animal and you ate this whole apple, right? The seeds are on the inside, you're eating the seeds, but your stomach's not really going to digest them so much. So as the animal goes to the bathroom, the seed comes out and is able to plant a new plant. So that's another way, right? If you're a deer and you ate this apple, you're not going to stay in one spot. You're going to be moving along, and wherever you happen to go to the restroom, that's where the seed's going to come out. Gross, right? All right, so seeds do lots of different things. And just to review one more time, seeds will float to go to a new spot. Seeds will roll either downhill or across the ground a bit to spread out so they're not directly under the tree that they were coming from. They might also stick to an animal. They might have prickers or something like that. They are also going to fly and swirl in the wind. And sometimes they're coming out of animals' poo, right? Nasty. Because their whole goal is to be able to find a spot that they can start to grow, right? So a seed is a baby plant. It has to find a place where it's going to work, that it's going to be able to survive and hopefully grow into an adult plant. So my last thing I want to show you guys, and I'm going to move my water out of the way, is I'm going to post this after today's feed, a little fun thing you guys can try at home. Because one of my favorite seeds are the one that I showed you guys, the twirly maple seed, we are going to post up a little thing on how to make your own twirling maple seed. So I'm going to post this thing here. You have to cut around all the outside parts, and then you just have to do a little bit of folding to make your maple seed. It's also a little bit like a helicopter too, if you want to think of it as a helicopter. So once you cut all the parts you need, you just have to fold it so it has a bit of a wing on the top, almost like that helicopter, right? And then you're going to fold in our bottom to make the seed, right? So it needs the part that keeps it up in the sky, but it also needs a little bit of weight down below. That's our seed that's going to make it twirl. So once you've got your thing cut out and you've got your pieces folded right, I usually put a little tape on this so it stays together. You have to throw it directly up in the air and it's gonna twirl around like my maple seed. Hopefully. Ready? All right. Ooh. See if I can do it higher. So it's catching the wind, but it's also propelling itself to go to a different spot. So it may start out in the tree, and you can pretend the tree is me, right? And it's going to end up maybe not too far away, but if it's a windy enough day, it might bring it all the way across to your yard, right? Because the seed wants to spread out. Right. Does anyone have any questions? I know it's a quick video today on us, isn't it? Seeds are kind of funny things. So my challenge for you guys is to make this. I'm going to post it in just a little bit in the comments down below. I'll also post it on Cedar Run website. So if you don't see this on Facebook, you see it on YouTube, you can go onto our website too. But my other challenge is to go out into the yard and see what kinds of seeds you can find. Right? So I know you guys probably have some fruit seeds in your house, but finding ones out in the yard are a little bit harder. You might find some pine cones, right? You might find some acorns. You might be able to find some of these cool maple seeds. All right. Some other people might have cool ones like hickories and things in our backyard too. So I want you guys, if you find any cool seeds in the yard, post them in the comments and I want to see who has the coolest one. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us again this afternoon. Tales of Two is my favorite thing to do. It gets me busy in the afternoon. So hopefully you all can join us again tomorrow. We're going to be talking about nocturnal animals with one of our special resident animals as a guest. So hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, everybody.